Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. Hopefully everyone had a Merry Christmas, doing the New Year's Week show a little bit early because we had some breaking news out of Michigan where we went through and hired Kyle Whittingham from Utah. And so that's been everywhere. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised at how positive everybody is with the hire. I don't think I've seen any of the media guys that were harsh against Harbaugh come out and knock the hire. So I'm wondering if this will help with some of the negative ESPN press that has been out there for a while. Because I'm sure ESPN loves it, right? You take another Big 12 coach. Penn State took Matt Campbell. Michigan takes Kyle Whittingham. That's less potential interference bids from the Big 12. So why wouldn't they like it? Right? I don't know how things will go. I'll say that. I've had people ask for my opinion. Honestly, Kyle Whittingham would have been up there as one of the guys that I would have been positive on. Not really negative, anything to say. I saw a lot of people knocking his age. And so I went through, I think Nick Saban right now, he's 74. So when Michigan beat them in the Rose Bowl, he had to have been like 72, which is like 2 years ago. Or maybe it's 3 years ago, so he'd have been like 71. And then that would have been 2 years ago, right? Because it was just us and then Ohio State. So then his last national championship would have came in 2000. He would have been like 67 or 68. And I think Whittingham right now is 66. So I think realistically, I said it before on the show, I'm pretty sure that it was very suspicious. Sharon Moore got fired and Kyle Whittingham stepped down 2 days later, almost like he was ready to apply for the job then and there. And it's not really even a big secret. It's an open secret that Michigan really wanted to hire DeBoer. And when they beat Oklahoma, it kind of screwed everything up. Because you're not going to leave when your team's in, the quarterfinal round now? On New Year's Day. The portal opens January 2nd. For him to, even if they lose to Indiana and DeBoer decides to take the Michigan job, it's open season. Like, they're not going to have a contract done when the game's on. I think they're play on the 1st. The timing would have just been off. And so, by all accounts, it seemed like Michigan was trying to get him to commit before the game. Wasn't willing to do that. One of the Alabama insiders, I don't know if you saw this, actually said that one of their people flew to Louisville and they were the ones that met with Jeff Brom. So some of the Michigan smoke around him potentially leaving that came out from the agents might not have actually been tied to Michigan at all. It might have been that they were interested in him as a backfill for DeBoer as part of that process. So I don't know how true that is, but since it's coming out from the Alabama side, it seems like they knew that DeBoer kind of would have taken the Michigan job. It's going to be weird if he loses to Indiana, right? Because the timing's off. Where's he going to go? Notre Dame, his best hope would be Marcus Freeman, rumored to talk with the Giants, New York Giants, that is. So if he goes to the NFL, would DeBoer then go to Notre Dame?
That would be a logical landing spot. That would put him right back in the Midwest and where it seems like he wants to be.
And if that were to happen, then you would have a direct parallel. The same year, the Michigan hired Whittingham I'll talk about what his role is going to be or whatever. Even at the advanced stage, I don't think it's going to be too much of a knock. Because I've said before, if you can keep Bryce Underwood, he's probably here for 2 more years. Whittingham wants to win a national championship. He should be on the phone talking with him the entire time. I think he coached Alex Smith, right? In 2008 when he went undefeated. And so he's had a number 1 quarterback drafted. Now it was 20 years ago. Nah, 18. What year was that? 2008 or something like that? So unless Urban coached Alex Smith, no, because Alex Smith came out in support of it, so it had to have been him, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that if he can keep Bryce Underwood and he can develop him, because his offense has been pretty good, pretty legit at Utah. It's one of the highest rated. I think they were averaging like 40 points a game or something crazy. The only losses that Utah had were to BYU and Texas Tech, which, as we both know, are heavy NIL hitters. And I think that's where the disconnect with Utah came from, where Whittingham was against NIL really, but he has to know where football's going, right? And then he really spoke out against a private equity deal, which wasn't what Michigan was doing at the exact same time, saying, yo, you already have a collective, right? Getting your money and a GM. If you can have that, we don't want private equity coming in and breaking everything down with other demands and having guys do a bunch of other stuff. Like, let the collective handle it and do the football stuff separate, which is the direction Michigan's been going. And there's rumors that, Michigan could even bring in another GM type move from Alabama anyway, outside of DeBoer, which I think would be another shot against them. Morgan, he used to be at Michigan anyway, I think with Harbaugh, went out to Washington with DeBoer and is rumored to have been on campus last week. And so if he comes with Whittingham and you bring in that collective power where you have one guy doing the GM stuff, kind of like Texas Tech has been doing, let the guy that doesn't want to do NIL stuff just coach football. He honestly is coming to Michigan to win a national championship. Otherwise, why would you come? Like, I've seen some rival fans say, oh, he must just be taking a retirement. You don't go to Michigan to get a payout for retirement. There's going to be so much pressure on you. You would have went like to Penn State or something where the pressure is not as big. Although they were firing James Franklin for whatever after 10 years, 20 years, however long he was there. So maybe I'm off base a little bit, but I'm telling you, Kyle Whittingham could have been paid at a different job that isn't as high pressure. I think the guy really wants to win, and someone brought up the time. I've seen in a couple articles already where he seems pissed off at Utah about their NIL stuff because he's made it clear that they were like clearly behind BYU and Texas Tech, and he didn't have that support, and they were kind of like ready to let him walk. And so the articles kept mentioning like when Whittingham's pissed off, he's going to be focused. Now, maybe he can only be pissed off for so many years, right? He can't just be...
Or maybe he can just be pissed off forever.
Maybe. But they brought up the one time where it was like Wyoming or someone where they kicked an onside kick up like 40 because the coach had like talked about how they were going to beat Utah and he was pissed off. And then he had to apologize after the game. Said it was in the heat of the moment. He was too fired up. Wanted to kick an onside kick. So if that's the kind of guy that's coming in, he's competitive. I think Michigan will be great. I don't care. I might be in the minority here. I want to hear what you think. Do you care about the long-term possibility of a coach, like age-wise?
Well, I think in some aspects you do, but the bottom line is you have to win right now. And I think that it's an ideal situation because he may have 2 or 3 years that you develop as this NIL general manager type position evolves. I think you're going to build more stability within that and allowing the natural development of that to take place. But then within a couple of years, there can be a really easy transition from him. I mean, the only way that I think things really get messy is if they want to hire a younger coach and they have Willingham tied to this longer term deal. And then it becomes I'm not ready to go. And then they're in this power play of who does what. I think that can be, but if all of the people have talked. And I mean, the one thing among the agents is that there's so much knowing ahead of time of who's going where and when. Like, it was rumored way back when Rich Rod was at Clemson before he went to West Virginia the first time that he was possibly looking at it being looked at for Texas Tech before they hired Leach. And that, like, through the back channels of things, was like, he realized he waits a year or two and he's the head coach at West Virginia, and that was a landing spot that he wanted to be. So, like, he didn't even interview for the Texas Tech job back then because he knew, projecting out, what was going to be open and where he wanted to be. I do think that that's probably a little bit more in line with agents talking to schools and doing that type of deal. That I think that was probably what I think is going to be the bigger picture. Now, I think if you move on and you don't have that GM type person in place to say, hey, we're going to keep, a certain aspect of X and O similar, regardless of who the head coach is, I think that can be something that keeps classes together. It keeps continuity within programs. That's going to help balance some of it out, where, like, you're not going from, we're an under center, pro I, Jim Harbaugh team, to now we're a Todd Graham, like, hurry up, no huddle style spread that has no, back and forth, or, like, there's not a lot of compatibility with those offensive philosophies.
Well, that's where I think, depending on how this plays out, we'll see how the transition goes. But I think Whittingham had to look at the roster. Remember, Michigan signed like the number 6 class last year. This year, right now, it's looking like the 11th best class. Now, people could transfer out. We don't know. Transfer portal's not open yet. Michigan hasn't even played its bowl game yet. I think the only 3 opt-outs Michigan has right now are 3 guys that are going pro. So there hasn't been like people that have gone ahead and tried to get out of there now. I am kind of annoyed the way Biff Poggi handled things, because I've heard from some of the reports that came out that he might have been the reason why things sped up so much, because he went on that interview and talked about how Michigan could have 25 guys transferring out that he's talked to, and kind of made a push for, like, him being the coach as, like, a power play. And he had to have known deep down that they were never going to hire him as the coach. Right? They've already went through that with Sharon Moore. They're not going to hire another guy that's a loose cannon going crazy on a podcast. Like, I think they might have, well, I don't even know if they want to say overcorrect.
Well, I thought it was hilarious that with Poggi, he said, yeah, if I was Underwood, I'd get in the portal too, or like something along those lines.
Well, and the thing is, he blamed the culture. He said, like, the culture here has been awful for 5 years. Harbaugh and Sharon brought him back because he was the culture guy. So if the culture's awful, then he's basically admitting that he's been bad at his job. Right? He's not there to coach. He didn't have a winning record at Charlotte, right? They brought him back to be the locker room mentor guy. And he's saying, like, oh, you know what? That locker room stinks. And honestly, I think it's disingenuous at that point. Because, like, the team went 9-3 with a head coach that wasn't 100% invested in coaching. I think everyone can agree on that. At some point, you can have talent where it's hard when the talent is so good that you don't lose. That's why I think everyone was shocked the way Penn State season went. Right? Because they were picked to be in the national title, and they just weren't winning games that the talent should have just been winning. Even if you're winning sloppy, you should be winning the game. They ended up beating Clemson today. And I don't know how Dabo hangs on, but I'm looking at what Campbell's bringing in compared to how this Michigan transition's going. And Penn State has like 8 hard commits right now after the Campbell hire. They had 2 people sign. It doesn't look like they got removed. I was trying to compare it because I think Michigan had one signee or two ask out, and I didn't see them on the list anymore. So I'm guessing these lists are up to date, where if you get let go, like if you get out of your letter of intent, they remove you from the list. So I'm guessing the two guys they signed are staying no matter what. And so now you have a Penn State class that isn't even still going to be full. Like Campbell has to try to bring in bodies at this point. He's probably going to be hitting the portal hard. I don't know how many guys he can get from Iowa State to come over, but that's going to be a difference where if Michigan's able to keep their talent together, Penn State might be in a complete rebuild. And at that point, no, you can't hire Whittingham. He's not there to do a rebuild. He's coming in hot, like Urban Meyer did at Ohio State that first year where they went undefeated, but they were on like the bowl sanctions or whatever where they couldn't be in the playoffs. Or I guess it would have been the BCS at that point. That's what Whittingham is trying to do. From the Urban Meyer tree, he's coming in. His offensive coordinator, the guy that they've targeted, he said he runs a power raid where he does a lot of air raid concepts, but his main focus is on the power run game. And I think long-term, that's probably the transition Michigan wants to make. So it makes sense because it's hard. You can't find too many guys running pro offense anymore in college. You just can't. And even the guys in the NFL, with the success of the Eagles and Patrick Mahomes, you're not finding like a true pro. You almost have to kind of, if you're trying to get into a cycle where you have a GM and you have coaches come in and run their stuff, you almost have to have some type of spread offense going. And we've seen it happen in Wisconsin where you just make you flick the switch going from a power run to an air raid, and they've been awful. They've been awful. That's why one of the things, who did they beat that was on the Michigan list? Was it, I can't even remember who one of the one was, but like they beat one of the coaches that was on the list, and it's like, well, that's a red flag. Same with DeBoer. Alabama has top talent. Yeah, Florida State can pull off the upset, but it shouldn't be a blowout, right? So in terms of coaching, Urban Meyer has come out and said that, well, he thinks Willingham is the best coach in the game right now. If that holds true, Michigan could come out on top. And some of the things like Dillingham, to me, too young. I know a lot of people are saying, you might get 20 years out of him. You might get 1 or 2 like Sharon, where they can't handle the pressure and then they're out. That's why, to me, it was either DeBoer or if you're going to get him, and like if they could get Braum or Whittingham, which is what they ended up doing, I'm on board with that. Get a veteran coach in there that can win. I understand like they couldn't wait for Minter. It would have been a first-time head job for him. He's had success at Michigan. I think they wanted to really clean house. The other guy was Ravens offensive coordinator Monken. That was one of the finalists. I don't know if you saw that, where they reached out to John Harbaugh's crew. He said he's not interested in coaching college. Recommended Monken, who was at Georgia for their run. And Georgia hasn't won since he's left. That he's also older. And so I think it really came down to, what do we want? Monken, I think he was a head coach before Southern Miss or something like that, and he stepped away to just focus on the offense. But I'm pretty sure Michigan was just selling a thing where we're going after high-profile coaches that we're trying to have our collective and GMs handle all the NIL stuff. We should have a roster locked in for you. Come in.
And that makes sense to
Coaching.
hire. I mean, at that point, it makes sense to hire older coaches because a lot of those older head coaches, they don't want to be on the road. They don't want to be dealing with all the recruiting and that end of it. So it's like, it may be to their advantage to hire someone older and be like, look, this is who the head coach is, but you're going to be working through the collective. And then that clears up a lot of the nonsense of dealing with people.
And that's where I'm not super excited yet, because I need to see who he hires as staff. Like Rich Rod kind of came in and brought all of his own guys, and they couldn't handle the step up. right? He was still recruiting like 3-star dudes. So Whittingham could be the same thing, where he's used to just getting the guys he wants, but that's not going to do it against Ohio State, realistically, or in the playoffs, which is what he wants to do. Now, if he's able to keep the Michigan guys locked in, or bring in, like I said, Morgan from Alabama, and keep the recruiting top notch, and he has his own guys handpicked where that's his staff, if he's able to bring the younger, like Utah offensive coordinator, then maybe you're looking at something where you have a head coach in waiting, because that's kind of why Utah was okay with letting him go. They had named a head coach in waiting. They went 10-2 this year, very close to making the playoffs. If they had beat BYU or whatever, one of them was a very close game that they could have won, and then they're in the playoffs. People were pushing for them to get in anyway. But then whenever the SEC had a bunch of teams that didn't lose, by default, they just kind of fell back a few spots. So, I don't know. We'll see what he can do. I'm going to compare it to right now the Penn State job. Lane Kiffin probably too, as we go through this cycle, because that would be another one. He's not young. He's not super young. He hasn't won either. He's going to LSU to win a championship. Basically why he abandoned Ole Miss. He said, you know what, I can't win here. And who knows, maybe he's wrong. What if Ole Miss goes on a run and wins a national championship without him this year? That could happen. I sent you the list of championships, I think, or teams that are still left. 4 of them have never won like a playoff or whatever AP coaches title. That would have been Indiana, Texas Tech, Oregon, and Ole Miss, which I figured Ole Miss would have claimed one of those Bama ones like back in the day, which is probably what they've been doing, because I don't think they had 0 national championships, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And then, of course, you have Miami. They're the ones that hasn't been relevant for 20-something years. 2001 for them. But then the other 3, Bama, Georgia, and Ohio State, have all won recently, with that Nick Saban one I talked about in 2020 being the other most furthest one away. But we'll see. You talked about Florida State bringing in a GM type position too, right? That's probably going to be the future.
Yeah, they brought in Miami's executive director, Taylor Edwards. So he's going to be there. He'll be leading the front office. He was at Miami. He was at South Carolina. I kind of liked that South Carolina was saying, "Oh yeah, he had all kinds of recruiting issues. That's why we didn't keep him around." It's like, oh, so he was there to help you build your roster. Had them playing competitive. Had Miami playing competitive, bringing in guys. They're 22 and 23 classes that they're reaping the benefits now. It's like, maybe it's taken time, but they're eventually getting the pieces right. I think if this hire sticks, there's immense pressure on Norvell to keep it together. And I think the big thing that I look at for Florida State going into this year is, can you stay healthy? Because there's so many guys that transfer in and transfer out. And in this NIL era, I'm not even concerned with how much roster turnover there is, because I feel like there's a lot of guys that they're at one place and it's just the new norm now of how much money can I make? Because I think as a whole, it's going to balance itself out. And I think you're seeing that with some programs where, we had it on the docket and didn't get to it last week, where you had the player from Missouri, I think it was Missouri, that went out and was, he was trying to leave, and then they filed suit against him saying that he was breaching contract and different stuff, and he's countersuing. So I mean, that's going to be one of the bigger things to play out now, to see, how is that handled, where he's saying they're damaging his ability to make money off of his name and image, and they're ruining that reputation because they didn't follow through with promises. So I mean, I think that case is going to have a big impact on future athletes and what their NIL capability is going to be.
And that's the one thing where I think as more teams hire a GM, because they see what Texas Tech did, where they have one guy come in, he's the player's guy, they go through him. There's going to be a network of these GM guys on the team where they know every team's budget. Dillingham brought it up There's been rumors after the Michigan talk where he admitted Michigan never offered him. He went back to Arizona State. They promised him all this funds. And there's reports out of their camp saying now that the admin is kind of balking now that Michigan hired Whittingham, where they're saying like, well, we don't know. We haven't been able to get those. And I think the quote from him was like, we need a donor to stroke a check or something like that, like very young, like, oh yeah, go ahead, just stroke a check to me and we'll get the roster built up. And honestly, he's one of the guys where he had a lot of guys come back this year, right? They lost Scatterbo, but in terms of like roster build, they shouldn't have been as bad as what they were. That's why everyone that's telling me like, oh, Whittingham's not going to be as good as what Dillingham could have been. We don't know. Whittingham kicked the crap out of him this year. It's like 41-7. I'd rather, when we have Bryce right now, I would want Michigan to win right now. I don't care about, well, maybe Dillingham will win in 5 years. Dillingham will still be available, right? Unless he goes pro. There's rumors that if this latest talk falls through, he could follow the Freeman thing and jump to the NFL with the Cardinals. I don't know if you saw that rumor. So if they don't meet his promises, he jumps to the NFL. What would have been the difference with Michigan hiring a young coach that's supposedly supposed to stay there for 20 years, and instead, like Marcus Freeman, they could jump to the NFL like Harbaugh did? You never know. Like, it's rare. It seems like Ryan Day is going to be locked in, which is kind of good because he seems to struggle in big games. We'll see if he starts winning multiple titles, then we'll be in trouble, right? Let's see what happens this week against Miami. But we need to see consistent coaches. They don't last long-term anyway. So I think you need to hire the best coach in the moment. We saw it with UNC. They hired Belichick. No, people talked about how old he was, but a lot of people were talking about like, oh, he's going to run them like an NFL team. He'll have the GM come in, and it hasn't worked. And he's old, and his staff just didn't work out. That's why I need to see what staff Michigan's hiring. If they're young, hungry, he's keeping some of the Michigan best recruiters on staff. What's going to happen to Wink Martindale? Right? I knew Wink wasn't the problem. Michigan's defense has been pretty solid the last 2 years. So there's an excellent standard right there. I don't know if Wink has really been helping in recruiting, but again, that can all be pushed aside. So does Whittingham come in and keep the pipeline going where Michigan's hiring young guys from the NFL? I mean, Wink wasn't as young, but that was more of a mentor for Sharon, and it didn't work out. Right? Didn't work out. Needed some more guidance there. Which I guess if you read some of the reports where they were like fighting at team meetings and coaches were crying, like it seems like Sharon had that staff a mess. How they won 9 games, dude, I'll never know. Compared to what happened to Penn State, like it's almost a joke. And heck, they could still rally and win 10. Like that Texas team has also looked pretty bad, and they haven't had the off the field issues. So who knows? I'm not saying anything. I know Biff was kind of saying like they're an excellent team, probably won't win. Like, all right, dude, just go home. Go home. Quit talking. You're like hurting your career. Like they're not going to keep you around. And yeah, you did great for team chemistry back when JJ and them were there. It's not working now. Just bow out. Let the new regime come in. Whittingham seemed to have no issues at Utah, which means they already have their best guys on it. Ryan Day, his and his brother, like the PI, fourth base, whatever they called his thing. There's like a football pun, wasn't it? That investigative firm, like Fourth and Short or something. I can't remember what it's called. He's probably out there right now in Utah doing his surveillance, trying to figure out. Is he breaking a law? Does he have multiple wives? Let's see what happens here when he gets up to Michigan. But other college things. On the other side, I want to talk a little bit more about Dabo. Their team, he's shunned NIL. Right? They've been trying to give him help. I've seen their fans try to put stuff together, and he's kind of like, no, I don't want the help. I don't care if we're paying players. And you continue to see where his ceiling now has went back to 10-2, 10-3, 11-3, 9-3, 10-4, now 7-6. And they weren't even really competitive for a stretch of that game against Penn State, where it looked like it was going to be the drop field goal bowl. where it's like 15-3 at one point or something like that, where I think Penn State was just field goaling them to death. What are you doing? Right? You're making the ACC look bad. I don't know how they can move on from him. He's not going to take a pay cut. No one's going to hire him away. Like, if the rumors are true that Bama was reaching out to coaches, one name I didn't see, Dabo. Right? I saw a lot of the other coaches where they might have been interested in Dillingham. They might have been interested in Brom. They might have been interested in, like, so-and-so. They're not hiring Dabo away. Right? That was the guy. Remember? Everyone's saying, like, he's an Alabama guy. When Saban comes down, he's going to be the guy. He has ruined his long-term prospects because he won't embrace NIL.
There is something to be said for his approach, though, that I think it's different. There's different ways to make chili. His brand is just, we're gonna go after the guys that we want. We're gonna recruit our guys. We're gonna keep them in house, and I think Clemson is a prime example of what happens when you have elite quarterback play. When you really have the guys that can operate your offense. He's been a national championship winning coach, but I think that margin of error is so slim, especially when you're not willing to reach into the portal and grab some of those guys. But I think that affects it. I think across the board, his team isn't terrible, and he can get away with it. But I think he needs to just make sure. And I think it goes with a lot of things. You have to have that quarterback that can get you to the next level.
Well, Klubnik has to be. He's gone, right? Was he a senior? I mean, the NCAA is giving tons of people extra years now for whatever reason. But who knows? So, I mean, they were preseason 4, if this list is right. And so they almost did a Penn State fall off. And I wonder if it happens again if they just rip the Band-Aid off and get rid of them. Because I don't know. You're right with the approach. But Clemson should be a little bit better than that. They're not a program as of right now in the ACC where it's really them, Miami, and Florida State that are able to recruit in the top 20 or whatever. Who else is going to come in and try to build? The way he's building his program is almost like a college basketball program from like a mid-major. Or not, I don't want to say mid-major, but like let's say a basketball program that's not a national power, where you try to build and recruit in-house, kind of like Wisconsin when they had Kaminsky come through. And they had everyone in-house, and they had a very senior-laden team, and that's going to be the team. Purdue has had it in basketball too, where you can kind of cycle through. You're not getting the top recruits because you can't like out recruit like Duke and Kentucky. But if you get a couple of guys that fit your system, every couple of years you can go on a run. It seems like that's what he's trying to do at Clemson, and their fans can't take it because they got spoiled during the 4-team playoff era, pre-NIL, where they're like, oh, you know what? This is us. Like, we're top notch. And they've gone down every year in the NIL era. Their record has gotten worse, except for, I guess, maybe the one is maybe a little bit up. But multiple unranked years, I think that's where you start to get into the issue that Penn State had with James Franklin. Now, granted, Franklin never won a national championship. Coach O did. He got fired. He didn't last that long at all. Right? I mean, Michigan could do the same thing. Whittingham comes in. He's Bryce's quarterback coach. If he's there, if Bryce stays, which it seems like the NIL is pushing for him. He was on the graphic, by the way, with Whittingham on the announcement thing. Him and, was it Jordan Marshall? One of the running backs. So, of course, the collective is kind of driving that. If they're pushing graphics out with the new coach and some of the top paid players, you would think that they're going to be locked in. And so I think you have 2 or 3 years. You know, he's old. If he doesn't get it done, you fire him. Just like any other school. And then you find someone new, right? Then you hire someone younger. But, I mean, some of those guys are still going to be there. If it works out at Michigan, where Whittingham comes in and wins a national championship, then some of those other guys that were rumored, like Brom, that has been floating around and been successful and hasn't been able to pull in the top recruiting class, it has to be attractive for guys like that to kind of come in, where Michigan can get on a thing where they just bring in vet coaches every couple years and make a couple runs with it. Because why not? What's the difference? Like, do you need a Joe Paterno who's there for 100 years to be your coach? No, you don't. Right? LSU has had 3 different coaches win national championships. I think that's the model that a lot of these other schools kind of want to go for. And because with the NIL era, you just don't know. I don't think. I think you're kind of there. Plus, I don't think I mentioned it with when I talked about Minter, I was going to bring it up because he has a show cause. Pruitt is supposed to be winning his case against the NCAA, I think in the state of Alabama, where he had a show cause, and they're saying that labor laws, if I have this written down correctly, the labor laws are saying that you can't limit a guy from getting employment in like another state. I think the state of Alabama, because he was show caused in Tennessee, if I'm correct. Yeah. So they're saying that like if he wants to work in Alabama, they can't limit his employment because like that's like basically ruining someone's life at that point, right? They're not like an interstate trade commission. They're just a bunch of schools saying like no. Now, granted, it is only one, so he could still end up losing because they could say like you don't have to be a coach, dude, right? It's kind of like the Kaepernick thing where he was trying to sue the NFL or whatever, and they were saying like go play in the CFL or go play like wherever else you want to play. You don't have like they're not the only game in town. Go play Arena League, even though the salaries aren't really the same. I don't know, but we'll see what happens going up with these last couple playoff games. Let's go ahead and give our predictions, and then we'll switch over to some NFL. Although, do you have any other college things you want to talk about first?
No.
All right, first one: Indiana, Alabama. Who do you have?
I'm gonna go Indiana just because IUP.
I want Indiana to win. I don't think they're going to do it. I think this is the one where it's going to take a couple of tries, and I think Cignetti, because I had thought that Cignetti, he would have been one that might have listened to that Michigan pitch where, hey, you were close at Indiana. We know you're a great coach. But if you want to win a national championship because you're competitive, you need more talent. And I think Alabama's going to show that. And DeBoer, he did not look happy after that Oklahoma win. Probably because his team came out and played poorly, right? But maybe he's going to be in that weird spot where he just wants to be somewhere else. But I think his team wins in spite of that. And I guess we'll find out. That'll be the one where that could throw it up to the Ohio State-Miami game. Who do you got in that one?
I think Miami's going to make it closer than what people think. But I think it's a combination. I think Ohio State just has too much firepower, and I think they'll end up pulling it out. But I don't think that it's going to be as much of a beatdown as people think it's going to be, because I feel like when you look at how conservative Ryan Day plays when the money's on the line, he has a tendency of puckering, and I don't know that could end up being something that's going to help Ohio State. I think like that could put them at risk.
If you go back and look at his records, he used to run the score up. And then his like scoring 100 on Michigan comments and then losing the Harbaugh a couple years in a row, that changed him probably for the better. I mean, they won a national championship. And I'm worried that it's lining up where if in Alabama or someone can knock Indiana out, Ohio State's going to be sitting right there, and I think they're going to go on a run, and I hate to see it. I just don't think Miami is as well coached. Miami could have lost that last round. I mean, Michael Irvin kissed the coach after that game. Is that incentive to win, right? Does coach want another kiss? I don't know. We'll find out. Ole Miss or Georgia?
It's going to be a Georgia.
Oh, I'm thinking opposite. I'm thinking Ole Miss is going to win this one. They almost had him before. Now, I trust Kirby Smart. I think he's a great coach. He's out there. as one of the best. If
He has
not,
the worst haircut. He's gonna win.
he has the worst haircut, you said?
Yeah. He doesn't have time to mess with other people.
I think Ole Miss right now feels like they've got abandoned, and I think they could be a real wild card in this playoff.
They should have been a fan. I'm going to say it every week until they lose. Should have been in the playoffs in the first place.
That's what I'm saying. This is going to line up. Ole Miss is going to pull the upset off. Then they're going to get to play Ohio State, and Ohio State will beat them next week. But then we have Texas Tech and Oregon. Who do you got in that one?
Tech.
I'm thinking Oregon. I think Tech.
They paid for it.
Well, I would say that they paid for it. Wasn't it their softball team that they paid for it? Did they win the national championship or they got close? I can't remember if they won it or not.
Yeah, they were close.
So I think the same thing happens here where, yeah, you paid for it. You're there, but it's your first time. Oregon's been there. They've been close. It seems like their offense has started to click a little bit. I don't know what Dan Lanning shows up. See the Penn State one show up where he's like all jittery and like can't calm down and can't think straight and almost losing in overtime. I don't know. But I think Texas Tech just doesn't have the experience. I think they're going to go on a program run. I watched the BYU game today. Right? BYU came back and ended up beating Georgia Tech with a game-saving interception. And honestly, BYU, for how good their record is, they really should have put Georgia Tech away. It made kind of the ACC look a little bit better compared to what a lot of people have been saying about, oh, Big 12 this, Big 12 that. And I think that's going to be the issue here where the Big 12 and the ACC are a lot closer than what people think. And they're still a good bit behind this new Big 10 and SEC power, where I think Miami is better positioned than Texas Tech just because of their money has been there for a few years now. They brought in a veteran quarterback. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Oregon's going to have to break through one of these times. And I honestly think it's setting up for Oregon to make a run to the national championship game because I think they can they can win the rematch against Indiana or they'll beat Alabama is what I think will happen. I think we'll see, who knows, we might see an all Big Ten national championship where it's Oregon and Ohio State. But I'm sure next week when I get on here, I'll be completely wrong. And it'll just be disaster picks. But all right, getting into the NFL, I know I forgot to bring it up. DK Metcalf punched that fan. And I don't know why the NFL they said that they couldn't do anything in the game. He got, a 2-game suspension? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
What is going through your head?
But it voided so much additional money.
Well, I know that. I don't care about the money. I'm not paying the money. People always bring it up. They're like, oh, Bryce Underwood, he's making so much money. Isn't that embarrassing for you? No, I'm not paying it. Not embarrassing for me at all. Now, is it a dumb decision from him? Yeah. Lost his money, doing whatever. The response to that incident, to me, it just shows how delusional some people online are because they're saying like, oh, yeah, it should happen a lot more. Right? Yeah. These athletes, they really need to just have a moment of zen to stop from just fighting fans all the time. And it's like, why? Why do they need that? Right? People talking trash on you, that is your job. You're getting paid millions of dollars for people to come and boo you. Right? That's why you're getting paid the money. It's from the fans paying the money. They should be able to say whatever they want. I know stuff like the hate speech. Yeah, okay, cut it out. But like sometimes you don't even know, unless they're miking the crowd, you don't know what's being said. You've had players lie and come out and say like, they said this, they called me that. And it's like, no, other fans are saying like, no, that's not what was happening. Like they're just saying whatever. He said that he kept yelling his full name at him, DK Metcalf, which I don't even know what his full name is, to be honest. And so he came over and got mad at him. And so people were defending him, saying he should go after him for doing a little research. I mean, I used to do that for minor league baseball games at the Altoona Curve. do a little research, come out. A lot of the guys would just think it's funny, right? Because they have those like free, they can get like the free outside seats through my dad's work. I probably shouldn't be saying this. So then you go out there and the guy, like the left fielders or whatever, right fielder. No, it would have been left field. Yeah, I think it's right beside the left field because there was a roller coaster in right field. So you could go out there and you're just like trying to get the guy distracted to let the ball come through. So there's like a hit, you're yelling like his mom's name at him. And a lot of the players, like they know you're heckling with them. Because in between innings while they're warming up, you can like say stuff like, hey, yo, buddy, I'm on you today. I hope you don't mess up because I'm going to be putting a lot of pressure on you. And would I expect him to come over and punch me in the face? Right? No. That's part of the game, right? These guys, what I've noticed doing it at the Curve for a few years is a lot of these guys, you're on the road. I mean, football is a little bit different, but like for baseball, you're on the road, you're playing so many games. A lot of people are just always like, oh, give me your autograph. And they're just like talking him up, kind of like probably what Sharon Moore had going for him, where everyone's like, you're the head coach, XYZ, all these things that he can't handle the fame. Nah, if you're just goofing around with these guys, a lot of them are kind of probably just bored. Right now, do I expect them to come punch you? No. I think yelling at someone's name isn't crossing the line. No one could talk me out of it. I think you should be able to call the guy a bum, whatever you want to do. Like if he drops a big pass, they're paying him millions of dollars. You're paying him by buying a ticket for the game. Let it go. Let it handle. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's you're not calling them any like inappropriate names. You're just calling like, there's some level of gamesmanship with it that if you want to like try to get in a player's head, I think you can, as long as you're not overstepping any like ethical boundaries or anything like that.
Yeah, I think as long as you're keeping it clean. I think a lot of people don't realize, usually you're at a game, there's a lot of families around you. So if you're yelling horrible things at a guy, people in that section are going to complain. I feel like a lot of these keyboard warriors that are defending DK Metcalf have never really been to a game. Like, no, I mean, dude, I got yelled at the one bowl game down in Charlotte because I was standing up cheering by some other lady saying I was being too loud. I was knocking her enjoyment of the game, and I had my Michigan gear on. It was a Maryland game down here. And I was like, I don't know about you Maryland fans, but I'm used to cheering at the games, right? Like I'm standing up, I got my ticket, and then the usher came down and was like, hey, you can keep standing here if you want. You don't have to move. And then they end up moving that lady to a different section. And I thought, where are they moving her to? The nosebleeds? Like how? So I'm telling you, if you're in there just yelling crazy negative things, someone is calling security on you. Now, if you're just yelling at a guy and everyone's like laughing and playing around and he's getting mad, like, dude, you're getting paid millions of dollars. Just ignore it. Ignore it. Walk away. Walk away. It's not like, oh yeah, I gotta go beat this guy. I gotta go beat this guy up. Hey, coach, put someone else in. Why? Where are you going? I gotta go punch this guy in the face real quick. Like, that's so ridiculous, right? I mean, cops have to do the same thing too. People always say like, oh, cops are going crazy. I've seen people spit on cops, flip them off, call them names, and cops just have to kind of take it, right? I've seen worse things done to cops than I have done to players in a game. And so you can't tell me that these players have like, oh man, these guys are just great heroes out there doing everything they can to just stop from beating the crap out of people. Like they're some kind of out of control beast. Like I don't get it. I don't get it. They're just regular guys. They should be able to take a joke. And if they can't take an opposing fan heckling, then come on. Why even over by him? I know it's by the tunnel, right? I think it was by the tunnel. So like, yeah, he's coming out doing whatever. I mean, people grab like things. I think people have been like grabbing things off players before too. Like, okay, that's sometimes up to the stadium security to put a stop. But I'm still saying, I'm doubling down. I don't know if anything else came out about what was said, if they have audio recordings or whatever. But from what I've heard, like seen in the first reports, or that the other fans were saying that he was just yelling the guy's full name at him, like he was in trouble, like from his parent or something. Because I don't even know why that would trigger you. First off,
well, he was saying that they were calling them slurs or something like that.
Yeah, but see, that's the auto defense, right? And then you're in a he said, she said. Because no one wants to just say, like, no, I was annoyed with those guys, so I just went and punched them in the face. Because then you're losing money. And that's why I think there's enough of a boundary. Now, some college stadiums, it's close enough. But I think that was the same thing. Was it, who's the guy that's Draymond Green? He had the same thing where he accused the guy of remember, that just happened a while ago, where he like went over to the guy and he like accused him of the same stuff, and they had the hot mic on him, and he didn't say any of the stuff that he said, so he just lied. And then that was it. They just dropped it. So, okay. I don't know what you're going to say other than that, but I'm trying to look and see if we have any other facts that came out about it. But they said that he has not lied. This is from NBC. They called him a woman's name. Oh, they're calling him Angel Reese. So, which is even funnier now that I'm reading it. But man, I can't even believe it. So, what are you doing? Like, right? What are you doing at that point? Angel Reese. I thought that's not what he said. He said he was disrespectful, taunting him, was what I said, but I thought he said there were slurs or whatever. But no, Angel Reese, man, they said he said he told him he was a woman, is what he took it as. But what did Metcalf say? Yeah, they said that all the guy said was Decalen Zacharias Metcalf, which he said that the fan made him uncomfortable. And then the guy said he'd never used any racial slurs or whatever. And he told Metcalf to come set the record straight and tell the truth. And so that's where you're at. You're at the thing where you don't know. But at the NFL, like, what are they supposed to do? The guy should be able to come out and yell his full name. Because honestly, that seems like something I would have done, right? You just do a little research on the guy and you just start to say stuff until you get their attention. And if you're yelling his full name at him, that's going to be it. Because I know some things that I've done, like yelling like the guy's hometown. Like asking him like, hey, where should I eat if I come through your hometown? Of whatever the town is, right? Like those are things that'll get people's attention because they're like, oh, this guy, where's he getting this? And all you have to do is look him up, look his profile up. Most sites have like a bio of where the guy is or like where he played to high school or all kind of stuff like that. So they could do whatever, but punching a guy out of control, ruining the Steelers' chances for like a playoff run. I don't know. Because like even with Mahomes out, the Chiefs look better. Right? Didn't they end up beating the Broncos the other night? Yeah. Or no, the Broncos won. Never mind. they were in the game, I thought. So yeah, what's the Broncos standard now? Because teams are getting eliminated. Lions lost, so they're eliminated. That clinched for the Packers, which is funny. So I think in the NFC, we're only waiting for the Carolina Panthers and the Bucs. And as I said last week, I think the Bucs, if they lose this week and the Panthers win, they're done. Otherwise, if they're still both alive, they play next week. Now, someone said depending on what happens, where if the Bucs lose this week, there might be a scenario where, depending on who else wins or loses, where even if the Panthers lose, they could be eliminated from the tiebreaker before they even play next week. So that's something to keep an eye on. I don't know all the scenarios. I don't have them written down. But yeah, the rest of the AFC now is locked in. Broncos and what do they have? Broncos won their division with that win, and the Chargers are playing right now. So the Broncos could be the number 1 seed. It's really down between them and the Patriots. The last spot goes between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. They have to, win one? If the Ravens lose right now or tonight, then it's over. But they do play each other next week. So the Steelers would have to lose to the Browns this week, and the Ravens would have to win tonight against the Packers, which might happen. Love is out, right? They're playing Malik Willis, I believe, again. He's been playing pretty good, so I'm not saying that that's going to be an automatic lock. But by the time you listen to this, you'll know what happened since we're recording early. But I'm thinking the Steelers are in, and honestly, the way things have been going, I think the Panthers are going to be in. So when you listen to this, if I'm wrong, oh well. But that's what I'm looking forward to. Any other NFL stuff you want to talk about?
No, just got to hold off, see what the Steelers are going to do.
All right, yeah. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, well, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.